I am RyanMcDad, and I'm joined here today by RomiBaba, our support extraordinaire, ADC top laner, Swiss Army knife of the world. Rami, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm great. Just to start us off here, we've got to go in. We've got to learn what the history of your gamer tag is, because you've settled now on RomiBaba. It's what's on your stream, but that's not always where it's been. It's been a bit of a trip.
So there's a very, very long history dating back to when I first played RuneScape when I was like 7. Apparently, I said the word bye like all the time. So my brothers gave me RomiBye as like a Gmail / like username for RuneScape. So I went with that for a while, but I didn't like it. So I swapped. And at the time, I really liked Orlando Bloom. And I still do like Orlando Bloom. Legolas is like one of my favorite characters of like any movie. So for a while, I was Orlando Bloom's nut. But and then I heard out about the tryouts for UNC, and I decided that might not be the best of looks. So I swapped from Orlando Bloom's nut to just Rami with like an accent mark. And then I lost a bet with Bob Timer. So I had to swap from Rami to Bob Timer's kitten for, I think, 2 or 3 weeks. And then after that, I was like, okay, it's time to settle down on something that's like no accent mark, easy to type. And then I really like sheep. And Baba means like dad. And like a few languages, so I went with RomiBaba, and so yeah, that's where I am now.
So now we have 2 dads here on the podcast.
Yes, we do.
There was also a time, I think it was your Twitch name, where it was Gamer Girl Six Pack.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Where's the history of that come in?
I don't know. I've seen a lot of crap that like gamer girls get in general online. So I thought it would be funny to say like gamer girl 6-pack and then say 2 of the 3 things are true and have people guess which ones. And I used that for a while, and I got a surprising amount of like friend requests after games saying like, oh, there's no way like you're a girl, like et cetera, et cetera. So that was an interesting perspective I got for a few months.
Yeah, and so while you've been in games, obviously you've been all across the Rift.
Yeah.
So what, across your long tenure of League of Legends, who has been your favorite champion to play?
Ooh. Can I do one per role?
Go for it.
Okay, good. I'll start with top lane. Definitely Jace. I just think he's like such a high skill ceiling where I am nowhere near. Even though I've put in so much time. Like, I've seen how much better I've gotten at the champ, but then I look at players like Summit, and I'm like, it's just a different champ. Like, I play a different champ than I used to play, but Summit plays a different champ that I have no hope of ever playing. And it's Jace from Arcane Bat Chest. But I just think he's a pretty cool champ. He has a lot of skill expression, which is fun. And then ADC, it's Jhin for sure. Because he has a pretty, like, simple kit when you're just looking at it, but there are a ton of micro mechanics you can use in lane. There's a lot of spacing that comes into playing the champ. He plays in, like, a very, very unique way, where he's the only real champ actually gated by his attack speed, I would say. Senna is somewhat gated, but not as much, and Graves is as well, but again, I don't think as much. He's just very fun to play. He teaches you a lot about like how to effectively move during a team fight, how to position yourself,
How to count.
Yes. And no matter how far behind you are on Jhin, you can always be useful. You can set up plays with your W, your ult, like. He just has a lot of expression as well, I think. And then support. It's between Lux and Alistar. Actually, no. It's Nautilus, probably. Just
Those are three very different champions.
I think it's Nautilus just because he has a lot of random micro mechanics that are pretty fun to do. You can like auto something and then ult something else, and you'll be able to knock up both the person you're autoing but the person you end up ulting. And then you can like auto but then throw your Q and it'll disguise the animation. You can like hook and then Zhonya's. There's just a lot of cool stuff you can do on Nautilus. That's pretty fun.
We all have seen the RomiBaba Zhonya's tech.
Yes.
Wonderful on all of your support champions. Taking a bit of a pivot, I'm interested. Actually, before we take a pivot, I have to ask, out of all the champions in the game, who do you wish that you could be the best player or the best in the world at? Which one character?
Like every champ in the game?
All over 150 champions, you have to pick one, and you're the best in the world at that champion.
I would have to say Jace. Just because, like, Summit makes every matchup look so good for Jace, and he just does so much on the champ. And if I'm best in the world, then I'm better than Summit, who's already crazy, so it has to be Jace.
All right, that's a good choice. We all know that you've enjoyed your time in the top lane on Jace. Taking our quick pivot, how did you end up coming to UNC? What was your path to get here like?
So I'm a computer science major, and I was deciding between NC State and UNC as far as where to go to college. Both my older brothers went to NC State, so I kind of just wanted to do something different. So I chose UNC because their comp sci department is really good, from what I've heard, before I applied and before I got in. It's like comparable to NC State's, just different approaches. And a lot of my friends were going to UNC. I like Chapel Hill. It has a much more like home feeling than NC State does. So yeah, I chose UNC for that reason.
You've ended up here. You spent years of your life here. Is there ever a time where you wish that you had went to NC State instead, or maybe somewhere altogether different?
I mean, there are definitely the times where you're like, I wonder what life would have been like if I went here instead of there. But I think ultimately I'm happy with where I am. And because of that, I don't have any regrets about choosing UNC. There were times where it's like, oh, if I went to state, I could have done this or I could have done that. But the fact that all the state guys hang out in our Discord makes me feel like I'm happy with my decision.
And so while you did come to UNC, that did give you the opportunity to play with the UNC Esports different teams coming from junior varsity, eventually ending up on varsity. Was there a time before UNC where you were in League of Legends Esports or a different esport altogether?
So I played in a Risen League the summer before I joined JV. So the summer after my freshman year, I actually played with the Bodkill, who I've never played on a team with here at UNC, but we both ended up on a team. Same with El Duan, who's tried out for teams and was a sub. So I played in a Risen League with them, and I was playing ADC on that team under the name Orlando Bloomside. So I have actually had some experience playing before UNC, but I'd say UNC is way more serious than that team was, just because there's like a structure. There was a varsity and a JV. There was a coach. There was like funding. There were jerseys. There's a stream. So as far as like official kind of like experience, I would say not really, but I do count that Risen League as like something that introduced me to competitive league.
And so after you played that, did that have a mark into getting you into wanting to play more? What was the decision to not play in your freshman year like?
So freshman year, I was doing just like other clubs. I was on an athletics team just doing random stuff. And it never really crossed my mind that college esports was a thing I could do. And it wasn't actually until after that Risen team that Elduan and the Vodkill told me that they were trying out for the UNC team. And they suggested that I try out as well. And when I heard about that, that's when I decided that maybe I should give it a shot, like trying out for the team. Maybe it would be fun. So that's how I heard about the team. And that's how I kind of got introduced to it.
Okay, so a little bit of outside influence.
Yes.
It's kind of crazy that 3 UNC players just randomly ended up on a Risen League team, but
Yeah, it is crazy.
sometime fate works that way, I guess. And then after that, they gave you the idea to try out, and you try out, and you make junior varsity, right?
Yes. I made junior varsity as an ADC, and I played last year on the team.
Okay, and then after that, we have the retirement of Alan.
Yes.
Sammy Dare, for those who don't know him, president of the club now, retiring for bigger and better things,
Yeah.
which led to your first of many competitive role swaps.
Yeah. So for a while before Alan retired, this was before Kersey entered the scene. His IGN when he joined was Sada NA. But for a very short period, I would say 2 or 3 weeks, before Alan decided to retire, we were like, we need a mid laner. So I spent maybe like 2 weeks learning like Orianna and practicing Lucian mid and stuff. And then we had a mid laner, and at the same time, Alan decided to retire. So then I figured that I might as well play top lane for the team. So over the summer was when I was playing top lane. I think I spent 2.5 months playing top lane. It was very interesting and very different from the ADC position because I think it's the complete opposite, especially in competitive, where oftentimes your ADC is the player you're playing for the most. They're getting all the resources. They have a support in their lane. It's very easy to deflect responsibility onto your support for mistakes that might happen in laning phase, for example, but the top lane is like the gulag. You can't really blame other people too often other than like the rare jungler influence. And it taught me a lot of like discipline about just playing the game, not making mistakes, but it was also really fun because it felt a lot more rewarding when I was able to capitalize on my opponent's mistake. Because in bot lane, it's like the enemy ADC can take a bad trade, but then they just get healed by like a Nami or a Soraka or whatever. Their support can play better than yours. Yours can play better than theirs. But top lane is a very different position, and it's a lot more versatile because you can play your Jace, your Camille, but you can also play your Malphite and your Ornn and your Sion. So it was a very different but enlightening experience.
So we looked through that enlightening experience, and we fast forward a bit to looking at this year where you're on varsity, and you're not on mid or top.
Yeah.
You're on a completely different role, and now you're ended up on support.
Yes. So for that, basically our support decided not to play. So then we had to do a lot of shuffling, and we brought up the JV mid laner to role swap to top lane, and then I swapped for the 3rd time back to support, which wasn't too difficult for me. Before I played ADC, I was a Thresh one trick for like a season, so playing ADC also just gives you a lot of fundamentals about how your support should play, because laning phase is mostly determined by your support in the first place. And it's important to understand what support matchups are good, what matchups are bad, what each support in the game does in a certain matchup. So while you're not necessarily playing support, you understand how you should be playing for your ADC. And it's very easy to introduce yourself to support from ADC by just saying, if I was my ADC, what would I want my support to do here? And that's kind of how I taught myself the role, was just thinking about what I would want as an ADC at any given time and just trying to do that.
And in all of these different role swaps at different periods in time, you've hit Masters or above on 3 roles now, because you've hit it on ADC first, and then top second, and then most recently on support.
Yes.
I've deemed this your budget Tyler 1 challenge, going around to all the roles.
Yeah.
My question to you is, do you think that support is the home? Do you think that you go back to ADC or top one day? Do you think you get bored and you decide to go for your 4th role? What Do you even have an idea of what comes next? Do you just go with the flow?
I'm mostly going with the flow. It feels kind of nice to be able to boot up the game and just be like, what role do I feel like playing today? Recently, in the past few weeks, I've been missing ADC just because there's that, it's just a very different play style where most of the time, no matter what you do on support, you have no real agency to carry the game later. Like, you can play very well, but still depend on other players to perform. Whereas ADC is kind of the opposite of that, where you depend on your team to set you up for success, but you have the ability to outplay later, express yourself more mechanically, have that higher impact in the game. So I think the past few weeks I've been playing more Aphelios, Ezreal, Kai'Sa, and Jhin, like those champs, going back to those carry champs and ADC as a whole. Top lane is very fun, but it's a very mentally taxing role, and I don't think I'm ready to go back quite yet. I might give jungle a shot, though. I'm kind of interested in jungle, so we'll just have to see what happens with that.
And since you've had all this experience in different areas around the Rift, we have our hypothetical for you today. Not as fun as being stranded on an island.
I wanted to do that one.
But instead, you're approached by a Riot executive, and they tell you that it's your job now to make the best champion for you. So you're making the newest champion that you think is going to fit your play style.
Okay.
And knowing that you've went across 3 roles and you hint that there might be a time in jungle, what does that champion look like for you?
I would want like auto resets for sure. For example, like Jace W in cannon form is a pretty cool ability. So something to do with auto resets would be fun. Just like a short dash to quickly reposition is fun. Similar to Kai'Sa E, but more of a dash than a speed up. I like the mechanic of every auto reduces a cooldown by like half a second, so that could be neat. I don't know, if it's my champ, I would make it like really OP, obviously, which I'm trying not to do. But like an auto reset, like a short dash. Jace is really cool because he has 2 different forms, but I feel like I'm getting into the OP area. But probably 2 forms would be cool. And then maybe a form of CC, like a Jhin W, would be cool.
And what do you think the ultimate on that champion looks like?
The ultimate? I don't know. Zeri ult is cool. So maybe something similar to that, where the longer you stay in combat, the more stats you get, and something that gives you like outplay potential. So like a speed up, just some sort of steroid maybe that increases while you're in combat would be cool.
All right. It's good to see a little bit inside the mind of Romy. We did hear a little bit from you in the beginning of your varsity season. We had the Mac Talk.
Yes.
Nice little interview right before your first game, and now here we are after the season's over. But I have heard that this is not the end of RomiBaba's competitive experience, at least for this year.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell me a little bit about what's coming up?
Yeah, so the varsity team season is over, but we kind of wanted to form a roster to keep playing until the year was over. So we put together a group of guys that either are currently at the university or graduated already, and we're calling it the UNC Legacy Roster. So that roster consists of Alan, Samidare, Adam, Strova, and then Limerence, which is Hamza, who graduated last year, and then Kevin, Cypress, and then me on support. And we're probably just going to play in like random Battlefy tournaments. We might do a Risen League potentially over the summer. But the biggest thing we're planning on doing is a show match with NC State, where they're going to form a similar roster with like 5 of their best players from like the past few years. And it should be like 10 players, all who are or have been Masters Plus. Most of us were like around GM. A few of the players were challenger either this season or in previous seasons. So it should be like a very hype match full of trash talk. All 10 of us are very close, I would say. And we kind of know how the other team plays inside and out. We have a lot of like intel on how the other team likes to play, how they try to win the game, how their players act. Some of the players are even brothers. So if Alex, Hot Dog Lover, does play for NC State, he's Alan's older brother. So that would be interesting to see. And I don't know, we've been rivals, but close friends for a really long time. And it should be exciting to see.
Is there anything specific that you look forward to happening or trying to make happen?
I want to force Sam, Bob Timer, and Alan to not play tank matchups. I would love to see a Bob Timer Jax come out because Jax is getting buffed. And maybe Alan will play Darius because Darius is getting buffed. So we'll have to see.
Maybe that should be a big event that we have coming up.
Yep.
Which weekend is that?
It's not this coming weekend. It's the next. I believe it's April 2nd, I think. It's early April, I believe. It's next weekend.
Next weekend coming up. We do have a bunch of different games, not just League of Legends. Yep. So there should be a lot of content for people to watch, all on our wonderful Twitch stream hosted by the lovely Mac Dewey. But I think that that's all that we have for you today.
Okay.
So aside from obviously telling everyone that they need to watch the UNC show match, is there anywhere else that they can find you? Anything else that you want to close on?
I stream on twitch.tv/RomiBaba, but the main thing you should do is join the esports Discord, which is discord.gg/UNC Esports. We have pretty much every game that you and two more people can name. You know, it needs some players. We have like in-houses and weeklies for pretty much every game, fun events, tournaments, streams, a competitive team for most games, so you should join that. I wanted to do the Stranded Island question.
All right, what's your Stranded Island?
I put a lot of thought because are cooldowns involved?
I don't know.
Because
I came up with that very shortly.
I feel like GPW would be so OP because you have limited access to food, oranges, right? And they also hydrate you, okay? And you can cleanse any diseases, or like broken bones you might have, okay? And then Aurelian Soul, I think it's his W? No, it's his E. His E to travel. Okay, and then Ash E to scout out areas on the island where you can find valuable things.
All right, so a little bit of a twofer there. We've heard Rami's champion that he's going to be designing when he gets picked up by Riot. We've heard what he's taking when he gets trapped on an island. And most importantly, we've heard that you need to check out the UNC Esports stream. Watch RomiBaba tear it up on the Rift with the rest of the UNC Legacy team. That's going to be it for us today. Please check us out on all of our socials, our Twitter, our Twitch, obviously, Instagram. Obviously, join the Discord if you're not already there. But Rami, thanks for having us, man.
Thank you for having me.